this story, so unbelievable, but yet not so unbelievable. When my family and I, my husband and I had talked for years privately about adopting a child with Down syndrome. And people would come up to me with private comments, and part of me hesitates to say this because I don't ever want my friends or close personal confidants to feel like they can't say to me what they feel like is the truth. And I appreciate those who were, when my husband and I announced we were going to adopt a child with Down syndrome, I appreciate those who were legitimately concerned about my family. But in my heart of hearts, I believe there's no possible way they could be educated on people with Down syndrome or on families who have members with a disability and still have said the things they said. And some of them were very painful. Friendships were ended over this. I mean, absolutely ended. Family relationships were forever strained over this. First of all, when a family member of yours makes a decision to do something like an adoption, just let me get one thing out of the way really clearly. This isn't something they haven't thought about. So the very assumption that my husband and I hadn't given this enough thought, when we had been thinking about this since we worked at Camp Wonderland in college, in our undergrad.
Seriously, people came up to you and said,
I don't think
have you really thought about this?
Yeah. Do you understand that these people have problems? And some of the comments were so, I had one mother of a friend of mine with Down syndrome who was in our wedding, Tom Pullman, an amazing man with an amazing mom who raised him essentially alone. And he's one of, he was, honestly, Tom was really the person that convinced me that I wanted to adopt a child with Down syndrome. He was that amazing. He was in our wedding. He carried the Bible for us, and we loved him. And he was one of our first inspirations. He and Sharon and Gordon were our friends that were in our wedding that had Down syndrome, and they all inspired us and continue to inspire us. His mother came up to me, and I don't think she'd mind me saying, I hope you realize what you're doing. And she did cause me to think. She caused me to go, wow, do I completely understand what the impact will be, the lifetime of a commitment of adopting a child with special needs that are essentially unknown, because the spectrum of difficulties experienced by people with Down syndrome is unknown. You don't know any more than you know when you bear a child what kind of trouble they're going to be. And they all bring trouble. Let's get that out of the way. I don't care how good you are as parents, you're not going to avoid trouble, character flaws in your children.
Oh no, if I had kids, they'd be perfect.
If you had kids, the whole world would be in trouble, Jason. But so my point is that we knew that, but we also knew that more than 90% of people with Down syndrome are aborted. And we wanted to give a chance at life to a child who wasn't otherwise probably going to have a chance at life. And I think, if I'm completely honest, the other thing we wanted to do was say to the world, look at the value in this life. We wanted to raise up a child, whatever his abilities were, that could say something really special to the world about the abilities of these people. And I think the other selfish reason we wanted to adopt him is because I knew people who had siblings with special needs. Most people I know don't have siblings with special needs. But I noticed some depth of character in the siblings of those with special needs. Not necessarily Down syndrome, but I just noticed there was a depth of character there. And I don't know why it is that God blesses and endows those siblings of children with special needs with something really special about them. But he did. He does. It's just obvious to me. Producer Jason, you're a great example of that. Your beautiful sister you lost right before you started working for me gave you a depth of character that I saw immediately that set you apart from other people that applied to work for me. That was her gift to you. I never thought about it like that. Now you're going to cry. Me too. But there is something really special about children who have a member in their family who has a special need. And I don't know why that is. It just is. I wanted that for my children. Some of the comments I had when we decided to adopt him, one person that I thought was one of my best friends said to me, have you thought about what that'll do to your family portraits?
Are you kidding me?
Oh, I never got over that. Never got over that. And you know what that does? You know what pictures of Samuel do for my family portrait? He is the most beautiful child with the biggest smile in our family. I mean, he's a beautiful child. He has done nothing but enhance our family portraits, in my opinion. But I didn't know that when I adopted him blindly. I had no idea what he was going to look like. He happens to be stunningly beautiful. I think he's model material. Maybe that's just the mom in me.
Yeah, Sammy's a stud. It's official.
But that was one comment. I had other comments. You know, most of the comments had to do with, do you realize that you are burdening your children for the rest of their lives? The word burden. I don't know, but I don't think my children would think of it that way. But there were enough negative comments as we got close to the date that we were going to actually adopt him. There were enough negative comments from the outside world that John and I decided to have a family meeting, as we'll do a lot when we're facing really tough family decisions or trials. We decided to have a family meeting, and we called all of our children together. And they were young, I'll give you that. And we said, these are the things other people are saying. And we don't want to cause you any undue pain in your life. So we want to get your thoughts on what they're saying before we go through with the final paperwork that we have to do to adopt this unknown child with Down syndrome. And our kids' answers were the most beautiful, the most God-inspired answers I've ever heard. They knew. See, kids, the simplicity of faith in a child should be what all of us aspire to. They knew. They were unafraid. None of those comments had any impact, even though some of them were from close family members and very close friends of ours. No impact other than just a recommitment and a reconviction that adopting a child with Down syndrome was precisely the right thing to do. For the purposes of ignorance like this. There was a group of children with Down syndrome who wanted to celebrate the end of their school year by going to a hotel in Spain called the Hotel Cabo Gata Plaza Suites. The hotel said it would not board the children because these kinds of people, quote unquote, might annoy other guests. Now, following up on this, management at the hotel has apologized for the incident, saying it was a misunderstanding, saying that in 35 years of business, they've never refused access to guests with Down syndrome, and say they have been, and always will be very welcome. Doesn't take away the fact that they were worried about these kinds of people annoying other guests. It tells me right there the ignorance is on the part of the management. Have you ever been around a person with Down syndrome and been annoyed? I mean, they are so much less annoying to me than people without Down syndrome, statistically speaking. And that is exactly the kind of attitude. I'm not one of these politically correct people that says you can't call them retarded. I don't have, I just, the minutia in this whole advocacy to me is distracting from the point that there is a public stigma that I can speak to, that I know because I am a mother who chose to have a child with Down syndrome. So I can speak to that stigma. While everybody says, oh, how sweet. before you've actually made the decision, the things they say to you aren't so sweet and aren't so supportive. And the things they say behind your back aren't so sweet and aren't so supportive. They question your motives. They question your sanity. And this is exactly what's wrong, and this is exactly why 9 out of 10 single women or women who face the option of giving life or choosing death for their baby choose death. 9 out of 10. What a tragedy and what a loss for the families who could have had that extra joy that comes in that one little extra chromosome. What a tragedy.